I'm here.
I never know who was on which side.
That's how I contact.
Howdy. Oh, I'm moving along.
All right.
Moving right along. Hey, how's it going there? Same to you. All right. Yeah, I don't know if you was. But anyway, that's like you started back to work. We'll talk through. Oh, I just started on this.
Let's make it 2 million, even 2 million.
Oh my God, you're gonna break me. There you go.
Thank you.
Let me ask you this. You attend That's what I'm saying, Saturday. You're going to that Saturday. Where is D? D.
Oh, let me go get it. Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah, but anyway,
Right now.
I'm not going. She could ride with me.
That's
You know, scoop around town, so I will let her know that. Starts at 7 o'clock. What time do you want?
Tell her what time you get it.
Wait a minute.
You know, y'all like it at 5 o'clock, right?
No, I'm not going.
I know, but if you will be there, y'all be there.
But you divorce with this one. You tell me what time, you tell me. 6:15. Okay, that's what I would say to you. Yeah, real good. Hey, how's it going now? Yeah, I went to the bar. She ain't here. Absolutely. I thought you got it. Yeah, so we have, let's see what time it is. It's already 5:30. Wait a minute. Yeah, that's right. Where is it? I don't know.
Linda?
Yeah, Claire just gave it.
Saturday night. I don't know if I haven't got it, okay, great.
I think
It doesn't have to be that way.
I may be coming solo. Maybe we can see. No, that's fine. I'm just like,
okay. Let's see.
okay.
5:06.
Write that down. I'll go ahead and contact you because, you know, we're not having ground running.
You got my number? Yeah, it's on the website.
I think mine is too.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, I think I saw it.
That'd be good. I should have mine.
Well, but, I mean, I probably have to.
Good evening. We will, before I call this meeting to order, just for the benefit of the board members and the community, just two quick announcements. We've seen emails around the board participation in the MLK parade on Monday. And that is arranged with the spot for us to participate. And that is on Monday at 3 o'clock. And look for details for that in your email. I know we're missing a few people, but I plan to be there. Johnny said you plan to be there as well
For the parade.
for the parade. Greg,
I will be
if
with another
one lets
group
you.
in, with EJC.
Okay.
And I don't know if Tawana may or may not, because I talked to her yesterday. So
Okay.
I'm a little bit concerned whether or not we're prepared to do it this year, but
Okay.
I should have sent out an email today. But
We'll confirm with folks
Yeah.
by email, get heard from the rest of you all as well. And also there, we have another called meeting for our retreat that you saw in your email. And that is on for Saturday the 26th that we heard from everyone that they can make that work. So plan on that as well.
and the 31st.
The 26th, yeah,
The town.
the town hall, yes. Yes.
Every opportunity.
Every opportunity. That is our legislative town hall, being Children First with the Gold Dome. On the 31st at Oglethorpe Avenue Elementary School at what time?
6
o'clock to 7:30.
And we'll be discussing, we'll be presenting to the public the legislative agenda that we adopted as a school board, and we think makes a lot of good sense for our kids here at CCSD. Okay, so we'll call this meeting to order. Dr. Means, will you help us with the roll call?
Yes, sir. Mr. Davis.
Here.
Dr. Dykeman.
Here.
Mr. Worthy.
Here.
Ms. Davis.
Here.
Mr. Ivy.
Here.
Dr. Knox.
Here.
Thank you. Our first item of business is to adopt or amend our agenda. Is there a motion?
I move that we amend it, we adopt the agenda as printed.
Thank you. Any questions or comments around the agenda? All in favor? Thank you. And then moving on to our action item today, which is the District 2 Board of Education vacancy. As you are all well aware, our longtime board member, Mr. Vernon Payne, has resigned from the school board, and we are here tonight to talk about and determine a process for filling that seat. That we as a board get to appoint somebody to fill that seat until the next election, and there is lots of flexibility about how we do that and what process we get to use. And that is what we will be discussing today. On your desk, you have both a map of the district that he represents. You have a sheet that from the Board of Elections that lays out the qualifications for a board member. So obviously, anybody who is interested must both live in that area and meet those requirements. But beyond that, we have some flexibility in determining what the process is for naming someone. And again, this is 100% the board's job to fill. Right? This is 100% the board's role to set up a process and to vote and to select someone to sit in the seat. Our superintendent, Dr. Means, is always willing and able and happy to help us in this process as much as little as we would like. And he has some fantastic experience in similar situations. He has served boards of education that have filled seats in similar positions. And so I think I would like to ask him for some advice, some thoughts, for some what he has seen work well, what he has seen not work so well, and then we can digest some of that and come up with the process that we'd like to see happen. Does that sound all right?
Yeah, I did want to point out, unless I'm reading it wrong, this is more for the public than you've all read the policy, I'm sure, but this is not the only way to complete an unexpired term, at my reading is. It's, at this time, it is. Had it been done, if I'm reading this correctly, 35 days before the November election, then the the voters in the district would make that decision. Am I understanding that correctly? Is that people's interpretation?
Yes,
That's right. Depending on when a person resigns, there's two different possibilities, and we're in the time frame now where the board reports.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify for myself and anybody else.
And anybody is curious about the language on our board policies, you will be able to look at that policy and see that there.
A, B, C, D, A.
Thank you. Dr. Means.
Thank you. I have served as a superintendent to 3 different boards that had to fill a vacancy. There's a few different things you can do as a board. You have some obligations. The first is to make sure that you have some type of posting in the legal organ. That would be an athlete's banner hero for us to just let the community know that there is a vacancy and that you're seeking to fill that space. That's just something that's customary. The real challenge becomes, what kind of process do you want to create? I've seen boards create a full application process where you're requesting citizens to fill out an application. I've seen something as simple as citizens having the ability to just write a letter of interest, and that's how you submit your name. And so those are options. In regards to once you get the list of interested citizens, the next I consider challenge, and I think that's what Mr. Davis was trying to articulate, that ideally the board wouldn't be in a position of selecting this person, but the voters would. But due to the timing, the board will be selecting. I think that's what you're trying to articulate, Mr. Davis. And so then this is where it becomes very awkward for the board. How do you want to proceed? I've seen some boards actually conduct interviews and interview candidates in an open session. There isn't an ability to go into closed session. I've seen some boards simply, and that's why the application process comes into play, where if you want to look at credentials and base your decision on a set of criteria, you can then articulate it. But per Robert's Rules of Order, you have to then have an open vote in regards to who you select. And that also becomes difficult. If there's if there's more than one person who submits a letter of interest, you're going to publicly have to select someone. And typically, these are all individuals who care deeply about the school system and children. And it's hard to be in a position where you're picking one name over another. So those are just some of the things that I've seen happen in the past, in my past experience. I think my counsel would be the more you can be transparent and open with the community as to why you select someone that's going to help that person's transition to the board. I've seen situations where board members are not as open as to why they pick someone, and so then there's this it seems like there's some secrecy around the selection process. So the more transparent you can be in articulating your reason why would be helpful. Also, the more you can be clear to the public in regards to the criteria that either the board as a whole came to decide as a team, or what your individual criteria points were in the selection process would be helpful. The interview process can be very difficult for people to work through, not only for the board, but also the individuals who are being interviewed. It is the equivalent of what you see in Washington, D.C. with a Senate hearing for a cabinet position. And sometimes those are uncomfortable to watch. So that interview process, if you can think about it that way, it's the equivalent of a Supreme Court justice going through a hearing process if you do an interview process. You can potentially help people in the community if you do your due diligence, review all the criteria or materials, and then make a declaration to the community as to why you made your selection.
Mr. President.
Thank you. Yeah, real quick, I think we have a couple of, if you permit me, a couple of chunks, right? We have a question of what do we ask for when we put out the solicitation for interest. We have a question of timing. We have a question of interview, yes, no. And we have a question of some sort of voting process. So I'd love to hear some of your thoughts on any of these and thinking through each of these chunks of all of what we need to decide.
That's what I was going to speak on, because this Board of Education, not the members on this board, we have gone through this process before, and to replace Reverend Nedley. And of course, Ms. Linda Davis replaced him. And the process we use is somewhat similar to some of the things that Dr. Means have already said. Of course, our legal person, Mike Pruitt, was not serving with us then. He was assistant to Tara Benton. But anyway, then, of course, you have qualifications, you have them noticed here. The legal counsel did a press release to the paper and listed all of the information in terms of the process of the person, if they're interested in filling this seat. They did a letter of application. They also submitted a resume, and they had a deadline to do that. And once all that information was gathered and brought it in, and then of course that was distributed to each board member. And of course, Dr. Beans mentioned about an interview. We didn't do an individual interview with them. They spoke at the podium there in terms of why they wanted to serve on the Board of Education. And then, of course, we already had reviewed their resume. And then after that, of course, each board member had an opportunity to ask questions to those candidates. And then I think we only had two, Linda Davis and Aaron Sheets. And then after we went through that process, then of course we took a vote. And Ms. Davis took that seat. That's the process that we use. And it worked smooth, very smooth. And as Dr. Means said, as long as you're transparent with the community, that they're not thinking that some kind of secrecy is going on, pertaining to filling the seat. Everything was transparent. And like I said, I don't recall getting any negative feedback on that. But that's the process that we use, Mr. President.
Thank you for that. Other comments? Mr. Davis, yeah, go ahead.
Well, going back to your first step, which is the solicitation.
Right, what we want to ask for.
Right. Okay, then I guess I'm talking in terms of, so both that solicitation and the timing I'm putting together. Because I understand about the Athens Banner Herald using that. I would certainly like to see us use a number of other avenues as well. And not to show disrespect to our Athens Banner Herald guy, but there are other avenues that I think we really need to pursue. And so I don't want to leave here without that being clarified.
Go ahead, Nemo. What do you want?
Well, I mean, certainly in terms of radio stations would be one. The flagpole, obviously, be another.
We talked about also, the district website. And
the district website
and Instagram feed.
And that type of thing. But I know I've missed announcements from the community. And I try to keep them abreast of things. So, in terms of city commissions and stuff like that they open up for volunteers. So that's my big concern.
That's a great point.
Is make sure we're using all these outlets and that we're not rushed to do it to the point that we're neglecting getting the word out.
Related to that, is there any restriction on people distributing this information?
No.
I mean, we have the notice, we can distribute it.
Absolutely, yeah, that's fair.
I have a question about that.
Sure.
In the draft, I assume this is a draft notice that we were provided.
The notice that we have is sort of, it is a draft. It is sort of based on what has gone out before. All the asks in there, all the dates in there are completely ours to change.
I just wanted to know kind of what our thought was in terms of timeline, because the draft deadline on this would be Tuesday the 5th of February. And so the idea would be that we would make selections so that this person could be on board by the March meetings, which actually are kind of staggered because of spring break.
I think, and again, this is our society. I think my preference would be, I don't see any reason why not to move as quickly as we can do efficiently, right? As long as we get the word out in efficient ways and make sure that we have a deliberate time to select a solid person for the seat, I think we should move as quickly as we can. And I think if we have the information back to be able to have a separate call meeting the night of our work session, and we may be able to vote on someone, that has our work session in February, which is
Which one is
the seventh.
seven?
The seventh. And then that person could sit with us February 21st, which is our business meeting.
February 7th? That's really
February 7th is the first Thursday, so that's the night of our work session. And if we, and again, this is just one draft of a potential timeline, but that would be, have a few weeks for the community to just sit with this, to get the information out, to prepare letters of interest or whatever it is that we would like to ask for, submit those. And then in a call meeting after our work session or before our work session, we can have a process for voting and selecting someone. That's one. I personally think that we could do a thorough job on that kind of time frame, but obviously this is our decision to make.
But if you have, from what I'm hearing, what you're saying, Mr. President, all of the applications, the resume has been submitted by the work session. Are you saying that?
They would be just submitted by February 5th.
Okay.
So that would give us 2 days to, before the work session, individually digest and chew on and think about the information we received. And then at the work session, if we want to proceed with the vote, we can do that.
Well, why not just proceed with the vote? As I mentioned earlier, they could present to the Board of Education that we have questions that we may want to ask them during that regular meeting in this particular room here. And after all of that is done, then of course, we can take a vote in terms of who that person would be.
Mm-hmm. So that raises let's talk about this, because I think one of our threshold questions is the yes, no around interviewing in public, right? And it sounds like you had an experience a few years back that worked quite well. I can imagine other scenarios that work less well. I can imagine, I can see it both ways. So what do we, at this, for the question of interviewing in public, this is sort of a yes, no question, and it ends up affecting our timeline if we want to schedule interviews in. What are your thoughts on whether we interview people for this or just review what they submit?
The way we did it the last time, and I'm not saying that we have to be a carbon copy of that, but really, in my mind, it was really not an interview. They presented, and of course, Linda Davis can speak to this. They presented, talked about their resume, why they want to serve on the board, and as I stated, we have, and all board members, if I recall, didn't have questions. It was really not an interview. And then once those questions was asked, and then of course, we took a vote.
And so I will speak to it. From what I remember, it was traumatic. I remember that doing that like thing. But not traumatic from the standpoint of anything difficult, but just not knowing what to expect. But the question was simply that, why do you want to serve on the school board? And both of us had an opportunity to talk about that and talk about our concerns about the community and our concerns about what we wanted to do. I don't necessarily remember any follow-up questions, so it was actually over before I realized it, and I was like, okay, that was simple enough. And then the decision was made fairly quickly too. And so to that end, I think the value of that was having the opportunity for the public to hear us speak and voice what was on paper. And I think it's different. It's different when you're listening and not just reading and interpreting with your own eyes. You actually hear the person speak about that. And so I'm going to be in favor of the interview period. And again, we can limit it to 1, 2, or 3 questions if we want, but I think that would be reasonable to actually let the public hear the voice of the people that would have otherwise campaigned for this spot. So I think that part's important to me.
Yes, Mr. Davis.
Yeah, I'm still stuck on the timeline. I'm personally in favor, and I do like the way that Charles and Linda have spoke about the previous process, because it does seem to have worked well, and the only thing I would wonder about is having maybe us as a board kind of coming up with 3 or 4 questions, whatever, and just having those out there so that so we're asking the same questions to each person. But, my concern is the timeline, and so I'm suggesting doing that on the 21st.
Do you have an opinion on whether we should do an interview, and whether it's more of a presentation and no questions back or whatever? Do you have an opinion on whether we should do kind of have the space for back and forth interview type?
Well, I think what Charles outlined makes a lot of sense to me. So I think, my only question is that do you come up with the questions ahead of time and say, these are the questions we're asking you to speak about? Because I think it's important for the public to hear these folks. So I'm fine either board members ask the questions, or if we decide in advance what those questions are, and do it that way. But
Give someone a time to give a statement. It sounds like that's what you did last time. You had
give a statement.
a couple minutes to give a statement.
But then we wanted to make, and then I think what Charles was, and then what they were doing is if there are questions that we're particularly interested in, maybe one board member may have the question, they want to ask everybody, why, why do you want to serve? That has not already been addressed. But that's something we can do ahead of time also. The other thing I want to point out, because I don't want us to be taken off guard, and this is getting back to the calendar again. The reason why I'm advocating for February 21st is I think we're going to, this is a different political time period, and the Clark County elections in November prove that you don't want to misgauge the situation in terms of where the public is at and the interest of the public. And whereas last time there were two good candidates, and I'm speculating that there are going to be a number of more candidates than then. And so I think that the board, I like the idea of the, what did Charles say? Letter of interest, a resume. And I would like us as board members to be able to have not just, a quick turnaround, but have 4 or 5 days to have that material, maybe even a week. And so if we vote on the 21st, if we schedule, each candidate being able to speak and us and answer questions, then we can allot as much time as we need for that process at that meeting, and then we can have the actual material due in terms of letter of interest and resume, have that due a week before. And one other thing, the thing about the 7th is that in terms of the flagpole schedule, you're literally allowing just one notice before we vote, and so I don't want to cut. I don't want us to feel like we've been without a seat, a person in that seat for a long time, and I'm sorry that we're losing one. But that being said, I think doing it on the 21st is about right. I wouldn't want any less time.
So it sounds like on the question of interview, we'll call that interview question, you're okay with people giving some kind of presentation, and you also made some comments around the timeline. Thank you. Thoughts also on this. Let's settle the question of whether we have presentations alone or presentations with some back and forth. Yes.
When would the presentations be? I think I'm just trying to clarify. I know, Mr. Davis, you are wanting like a later date. 21st. So would those presentations be on that date, or are you saying the 21st would actually be the date that we discuss the candidates?
I think from what we heard from the suggestion by Mr. Worthy is that the same day, so the 21st, which is our regular scheduled business meeting, and we have that business meeting to do on the 21st, would also carve out time to hear from the candidates and then vote on them the same day.
Okay, and so if it's on the 21st, would the information that they have to submit still be due by February 5th? That would give us a few weeks to look over it, or how would that shift what's here on paper?
That's ours to decide. I think
Okay.
we can keep it the same, we can move it, we can do something different. But I think if we needing to accommodate, so I'm hearing some interest in, I'm hearing this right, I'm hearing some interest in having some kind of presentations. Is that where you're at as well, Dr. Gann?
Yeah, I'm okay with either. I mean, I think we have to, it's sort of a fine line between, I'm blanking on the term, the only term I can think of is like hazing, but, you know, I think we have to be like, you know, careful. I know it's no way that we can have the exact same process, like for those of us who, or all of us who have like campaigned and things like that, but I do want to be mindful of just the amount of like pressure and sort of that experience for the person who will be, or the people, whoever they may be, that may be presenting. So I think I am in favor of that, but we'll want us to, you know, just sort of be careful and let that guide the process as far as like the questions and things like that, so that, yeah, I mean, I don't know how you balance those two, you know, make it a fair process, but also get us the information we need.
I think, you know, I would be most comfortable personally, I'd be most comfortable with statements, right? So, you know, give each person, depending on how many applications we receive, maybe some number of minutes to address the board and address the public. I think it gets complicated if there's an exchange, right? As if it's, you know, a debate, or then we have people responding to other people who spoke before them. I think it gets a little bit more unwieldy and amps up the pressure element that you're talking about. I'm also sensitive to the fact that, yeah, you know, public speaking and public presenting, you know, it's certainly part of what we do, but it's we're not looking for the world's best orator here. We're looking for a person who can be a good board member. Yeah. John, did you have something to add to that?
I'm happy with a statement, but also some questions. I think that's natural. I think Greg made a good suggestion to have, if we could come up with a few preset questions, so it's not a debate format, right, in the same way. But I think the public deserves to hear a little bit more than just the biographical sketch.
And there were like 4 or 5 questions that we answered that Ellen and I answered in that application process. And so that was the ground floor for each of us having the same questions asked. So I think that needs to go out with the application. What are those 3 or 4 or 5 questions that we need to answer in responding? So yeah, and that kind of kept everything structured. But I can tell you that the board made it very easy and very comfortable for both of us. They were very careful to protect both of our, I don't know what you want to call it, our person, our egos or whatever, that there weren't any questions or any probes or anything that was comfortable. So it was really but that part was quite pleasant.
Yeah.
I want that to be the same.
Good.
And Mr. President, if I may, I'm in total agreement with what Mr. Davis said, the 21st. We don't need to drag this out. And it's simply because of the fact, and the public, they cried out to the Board of Education, also Dr. Means, you know, that this seat has been vacant since March. So we need to put the process together, move along with it.
If I can speak to that timing, and I don't.
Can I wrap up this issue of
Look at our calendar.
so yeah, it's been busy, right?
Yeah.
So I'm hearing some consensus around, we are gonna give folks a few minutes to say some words. And we can, you know, give them some questions that we would like them to address in the words that they speak. So that will be, I think we should say that's gonna be part of our process. Does that sound all right?
Okay. One possible friendly amendment, and I'm trying to address what Lakeisha was saying. If we selected the questions in advance,
Right.
and then the people would have answered them in writing, and, I mean, that's one idea. And then what we would have had, by the time we vote in advance, we would have had the letter of interest, we would have had the resume, and we would have had answers to 4 or 5 questions that we've asked everybody, and then they could come up and simply speak, and then there would not be, like you were saying, you were concerned about that back and forth. We already would have gotten our answers to the questions in writing.
Yeah, I think we're in agreement on that, yeah.
Oh, okay, so
So
that's what you were talking
those
about?
questions.
Oh,
now.
okay,
Absolutely.
okay.
Okay, great. So when, maybe we can back into this. So we're talking about, February 21st. Is there some consensus around that's the date where we would like to hear from people, at this podium and in our public meeting? Does that sound reasonable? Okay. The other option would be to do it earlier. Does anybody want to make an argument for doing it earlier, perhaps at our February 7th meeting? Hearing the.
On the 21st, if it's on the 21st, the information that they will submit will still be, when will that be due?
When would you like it due?
I don't know. I just don't, I mean, personally, I would want enough time to, just to look over it and.
And we have spring break the week before that, so no?
No.
Oh, that's February. I think it's just spring break.
You were gonna do it on the 5th, if we do it on the 7th, that's 3 weeks from today.
All right. It's plenty enough time, more than enough time.
If we do it on the 7th.
If we have the deadline for the response by February 7th, that's 3 weeks from today, and that would give us 2 weeks.
You mean for the like written?
Yeah. Response.
2 weeks to digest whatever we get back.
Right.
Is what it
Depending on
is.
how many people, that sounds, just based on the meetings that we already have on our calendar, that just gives, that feels comfortable at this minute.
I think what you're about to say,
Go ahead.
is that doesn't change it very much from the February 5th that is on here, and I think what you were saying is that you don't think that's enough time to
Oh,
get
okay.
the word out
I
and
missed
for
that.
people to be able to respond to it.
Is
So,
there another date that,
I mean, I feel like if we have a week, so like 14th or somewhere in there. Is that-
so the suggestion is maybe February 14th as a deadline. And that would give us some time to digest information, coordinate with people who have applied, let them know that they'll be speaking at the meeting the next week.
You can tell them now.
Yeah, that's what I was
You're
thinking.
not gonna eliminate anybody, so that can all be set ahead of time.
Mhm.
This is the step, we get your application in,
Yep.
we speak at the meeting, and we move forward. So there's no extra communication.
February 14th deadline for receiving information.
Valentine's Day, perfect day.
That's right.
Just what everyone.
Yep.
That's right. Okay, then, what would we like to ask for in this notice?
I
Is
have
the next question.
question/suggestion about that. I think, as we've said, it's a little awkward because it's not the same process that is generally done, and generally it's the community that decides who they want as their representative. So I don't know if it's possible to maybe get like letters of reference or recommendation from people, and letters of support from other people for the person that's applying. It's not the same as voters voting for them, but it would at least give us some insight into how other people in the community view that.
So the suggestion is perhaps along with a letter of interest from people interested in this position, that there would be, are you saying some written out letters of support,
Mhm.
or just a reference to some people who are available as?
I think if we could maybe decide on like 2 letters or something, I mean, I would like to have a letter from somebody else in support of this particular person.
That just comes in along with
Mhm.
whatever letter they are already submitting.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Do the letters carry weight based on who signed them? Yeah, because that's my concern.
Mhm.
We're starting to create a bias. When we go for letters of support.
Tease that out.
Well, so if I get a letter of support from Mary-elect, or
Mhm.
somebody else, then do I value that opinion over my pastor's letter of support? I mean, so again, what do the letters of support do for us in terms of evaluating their candidate? I'm not sure.
Yeah, so for
Because
me,
if
it
we
would
have to make a
be,
decision, then we're gonna be weighting things, right?
right.
So that.
But I think all of our votes are gonna be somewhat subjective anyway. For me, it would feel like we were getting some community input on something that is usually completely determined by the community. So right now, it feels like we're selecting somebody that maybe we want, for whatever reason we want them, which is not the way that it is generally.
Let me just speak from experience. For me, it was how many people from the community came to me and said, write the letter.
Mhm.
So I mean, that's where the community influence really.
But the difficult part is knowing that, right? So I imagine
There you go.
there's plenty of people. I think that it is telling for you, and I think I wonder the same thing. You know, I worry about some sort of bias based on who's writing letters or whatnot. But I think that's ours to discuss and control at some level, and there's going to be that level of bias anyway. If I see somebody's name who I know, that's different than seeing somebody's name who I don't know. And for somebody who I don't know, you know, it's just sort of widening that point of reference, I guess, that data point, making it, you know, from one data point into three, perhaps. I can see it both ways.
And I'm wondering if, Mr. Worthy, maybe you can speak more to this, since I think you were part of the process for Ms. Davis, but I think we all are gonna have perhaps different reasons that we vote the way that we do. I don't know that there's a way to standardize it. So I don't necessarily see the letters as impeding that process, because I still think, you know, one person, I mean, the letters will be great, but one person may think that, you know, if it's Mayor Gertz, that's great, and, you know, that may not hold a lot of weight, but perhaps their knowledge of that person's work in the community or feedback that they've gotten from people in that particular district. And so, you know, I think the letters can be something good, but I don't know that it's gonna make a significant difference. Because I don't think I hear you saying that there were specific criteria when you all voted on Mrs. Davis, and did you say Mr. Sheets? Those were the two?
That's correct.
I don't think I heard that there were specific criteria that the entire board used to determine like who would be the best fit for the position, so.
And another way we might slice that is we could ask for a letter of interest and suggest what people might include in that letter, you know, and such a letter might include letters of support, such a letter might include relevant background, such a letter might include, and that would open the door for people who want to provide those, but wouldn't preclude anyone who doesn't feel like, I don't know, maybe they can't find somebody to write them a letter of support.
That seems bad.
Well, when you're dealing with letters of application, plus a resume, I think we just leave it that way in terms of that person writing that letter of application and also submitting that resume. Going back to what Ms. Davis said a few minutes ago, when she said, how do you weight letters that may be submitted from the public? That would be difficult for me to do. I can't speak for anyone else. In fact, on the Board of Education, we don't speak for each other.
Mhm.
You know, we do this collectively. Dr. Gant mentioned something that I just really, I support that in terms of members coming into an organization. It doesn't have to be the Board of Education, whether that person is a good fit. And when they speak behind that podium there, depending on what they say, et cetera, whatnot, oh yeah, that person would be a good fit, okay? Of course, I've dealt with some of this stuff in hiring teachers, okay? So, but that's a perfect term for me, a good fit.
Mr. Davis, you have about to say-
Yeah, I wanted to back up Carol. Because I mean, I don't like being in this position, and so the more information I have, the better. I'm not gonna put any particular weight on a previous mayor or former mayor, but to me, you know, I'm looking at the substance of the letter, not who signed it. And so, I'm just saying that, you know, to me, a letter of interest, a resume, 2, 3 letters of support, and if there's particular questions that we would like answered ahead of time, have that. So that's what my vote is.
At this particular meeting on it's the 21st, right? Is that open? That's not open for public comments, so technically, oh, no comment.
The business meeting, as all business meetings, have a space for public comment. That's correct.
Okay.
And we will do, as part of our business meeting, we would have that.
And so technically, if a person wanted to have people speak in support of them, that would be their right, technically, to say, hey, I'm going to be presenting my whatever tonight, can you come and speak? I'm not suggesting that's a great idea, or a bad idea, but I'm just saying, like, in lieu of the letter, I mean, I could go either way with the letter and we'll support, whatever, but I do know that letters, while they could be second nature to some people, like you said, you're like, okay, yeah, go get a letter of support. For some people, like truly having like a letter, you know, that might, I mean, then it gets to what are we looking for in the letter? You know, are we going to be looking at like the quality of the letter, or, yeah, I mean, it sort of feels a little bit graduate school-like. But I can go either way, but I'm just saying if they can have public comment, that may be another way to sort of strengthen their campaign, if you would.
Yeah, and actually the public comment question is a really good observation, but that makes me really nervous because I think very quickly we get a 3-ring circus just because it gets has the potential to get out of our control once we see the microphone I mean, and this is the general risk from all of our public meetings. You know, we see the microphone all the time. I think when we have people who are putting themselves out there to say, I'm interested in this, I want to support the Board of Education, I want to support the kids in our school district, and then we have supporters from one people, supporters from other people. We have teams. I think it gets really. It has the potential to be totally fine, and it has the potential to be rather unwieldy.
Sure, I think I agree with that. I think part of what we are hoping is to continue to, as we've started and maybe before us, to continue to support and try to work towards healthy processes. And so I do think you're right, it does have the potential to just really go bad really quickly. And I think that's sort of a part of it truly is a part of the process and the tension. I think that happens when you're talking about something that's important, you know. I do think it does have the potential to go bad or good, and I see that with many, you know, as long as it's the community's right to be able to come up and share, you know, what they believe. I just think it's just another way, for instance, if a person didn't feel like they had, you know, a strong letter of reference, or we go with that, it's just another way for, you know, for the community to hear.
And I think, I think maybe we agree on sort of, you know, absolutely have a transparent, healthy process. I think maybe we come out a little bit different sides on what the healthy process might look like. And, but this is again up for the board to discuss and decide. Thank you for that.
One thing I just want to clarify, I didn't see the letters of recommendation, so to speak, was letters of support as required. So I didn't misspeak. And, you know, based on what Keisha is saying, to me, even a little note would be, you know, I mean, would give me, you know, information, so I'm not even sure about really I mean, I want as much input in this as possible, and I think that's what we're all talking about. And so if we get 25 little Valentine's Day cards on the hat or something like that, you know, that tells me something.
Yeah, and that is what I meant really by letters of support. I didn't mean that they had to be formal or, you know, like 2 pages or anything. It really was more trying to see the enthusiasm from the community for a particular person. And I just thought that might be a way that people in the community could show that they really were enthusiastic about somebody and maybe why they were enthusiastic. So maybe something else that this person has done in the community. That was important. But yeah, it was not.
Thank you.
Pretty insane.
Ms. Davis?
I'm getting more and more nervous because, you know, I think the requirements are pretty much here, and what we're doing is voting for someone to fill an unfulfilled term and work with to meet the needs of the district, right? And so I don't want to turn it into a popularity contest. And I think that's what we're starting to sound like to me, and that frightens me because we're not putting people on board to be popular. They're here to serve the district and the children of this district. And so I'm hoping that we're going to be looking at what our applicants are bringing to the table to fulfill the mission, the vision, and the strategies that we've set forth. And what I really kind of liked about that, the only thing that made me actually go ahead and write that letter is the process was simple and it was straightforward. And it wasn't going to tax me as a volunteer to go through, you know, hoops to try and find somebody to do anything other than, here I am, this is what I bring to the table, the same thing that I would present to the public in a campaign. And then the people who are sitting in the seat decide, you know, do we think this person can work with us to get that done, or can be that person to get that done? So it's really not about creating a campaign, it's not about building a personality thing, it's not about building a following, it's not about any of that. It's truly about taking the job to serve the people of the district, the kids in our district. And so the more we glamorize this, I think is what it's starting to feel like to me, the more challenging it's going to be for that person to stay focused on the work at hand as opposed to trying to, I don't know, play to their audience. I'm just, that's my concern.
And there is the possibility that it, you know, that because this is sort of our, you know, we were elected to do this job, right? We were elected to do the job that we're talking about now, which is fill the seat. That's why we were elected. And so there is you know, we can go too far in soliciting input where it does become, you know, democracy at some level of a popularity contest, but then it becomes sort of who can get people to come out on a particular Thursday night, or who can get more people, and who can get louder people, and who can get more letters, and so that's what we need to. I agree with you. We need good data points, but figuring out how to thread that needle, I think, is going to take some care.
I just want to point out that I'm not here because, you know, the people around this table decided that I was a good person, a good fit for the board. There may be people on the board that say I'm a lousy fit on the board. But the point is that it was the people in my district who selected me. Now, we don't have the option to do a vote right now. I mean, if I had my preference, we would literally have a vote right now. And I even call up the book of elections. But I know that the next vote is in November, and that is, we can't wait that long, and that we're not allowed to wait that long. We have to respond quicker. So I agree with Charles on that. But I think that, you know, that to say that we are like in human resources and we're just picking the best fit for the job, I think we're probably going to end up with 6 or 7 people who are a good fit. You know, the question is, we got to select one. And that's what concerns me. Is I don't like being in that situation where, you know, I'm sitting here up here and saying, well, I'm choosing. You know, I know I'm in that spot, but I want, you know, I want people from District 2 to at least weigh in a little bit in some kind of way.
Okay.
Do you think that weighing in, the question before us is that weighing in, because that weighing in is going to happen, right?
Yeah.
You know, we're going to get all of our emails and phone numbers and home addresses are all public information, right? So that weighing in is going to happen. I think the question is is do we want that weighing in to be in this public forum, or weighing in the way that people have no problem weighing in on the matters that the school district is constantly debating?
I mean, we can even have it, use our website, for
We
people.
can set up a poll. We can
Well,
have
I mean,
people
I mean,
voting. We can have people signing in once every 24 hours.
I'm just saying that I think philosophically, that we need to get that input. And so I want to get that either decided that's what we want to do as a majority of the board, or we don't.
Well, I think
And then
I'm
once
not
we
hearing
decide.
anyone who says they don't want that. I'm not personally agreeing with that. I think everyone wants that input. The question is sort of what's the format
Okay.
for getting that, the way to do a healthy process to get that input.
That's correct, Mr. President. What you said, Mr. Davis, when you run an election and those voters vote for you, if you have oppositions, yes, they are gonna vote for you if they feel like you're a good fit for this board, that way you can run that campaign. Going back to what Ms. Davis said, and also what Dr. Gant said, two things, and I'm gonna stick with that. She said, what do you bring to the table? Okay, Dr. Gant said a good fit. When they stand there and speak before the board and also the community here, yes, it's a tough job, but it's our job to pick the one that would be the good fit and what they bring to the table, whether they're gonna be a good board member or not. That's tough. You can't make that easy. No way.
I think part of the struggle, I think that I have is that we truly don't know. We're making decisions based on, what people make decisions on when you send in your applications. Like, no one really knows, who's going to be a good fit. I don't even know if I'm going to be a good fit, to be quite frank. Or we don't know, like, what the future is going to hold. So we really are making decisions based on things that we've identified as possibly helpful. I tend to agree, I really do. Not that I think it needs to be a popularity contest, but I think the reality of it is when people vote, sometimes people vote for you and they just simply vote for you because they like you, or they vote for you for some other salient reason that has nothing to do with your ability to impact change. I assume that was probably the case. With me, I don't know that people voted for me because they knew me or knew something strange about the future. And so, while I'm not saying, oh yes, come and, bring your whole campaign team and everybody in District 2, I certainly think, I just think that I don't want to set parameters around whatever people decide to do in a public forum, other than the parent parameters that are there. And whether people decide to, speak on that or have supporters speak on that or not, I think that's up to them. But I think what we determine, what's within our influence, is determining what is it that's needed, like what we will need to vote on the person, be it 2 letters and a resume or what have you, but I don't know that, if it's a normal board meeting and I don't know if this is what you're saying, that we need to get into the area of trying to determine like how many people speak, what they speak on, those types of things. Because the reality is, I would love to hear from District 2 people, and that's not gonna happen in 2 letters unless it's some type of, large petition or whatever. I guess people can get as creative as they want to. But I don't necessarily see it as solely like a popularity thing, but I think there's another truth that when people vote in elections, they vote for those things that are most salient for them. And the other piece of that is that we're voting on things that we've decided are important to us individually, but we still honestly don't know.
So we're all just guessing, right?
Yeah, we're just guessing.
That's right. Thank you.
But I guess the discomfort that I have, and I think that Greg expressed it as well, is that we are charged with voting for who we will put in this seat and for the representation of the people in district. So,
For 2 years, right?
yeah, so that's the part where, like Lakeisha was just saying, the people who would normally vote wouldn't necessarily take into account whatever it is that we might take into account, right? So we are making a decision based on what we want versus what they want. So I was just trying to get some sort of information about what they want to help me make my decision.
But I think we are elected by the people, so they wanted us.
Yeah.
So they're simply giving us a proxy, and I'm looking at it as a proxy from the people to choose somebody to fill that seat. And honestly, I don't know about anybody else here, but I know it was not in 2 years that I had a firm grasp on what happens on this board. And so we know that part of that time is gonna just be ramp up time. I think that we'll all get to grow in that space.
So just to sort of recap a bit, so I'm hearing some interest around, asking for letters of support in terms of, this falls in the category of what we're going to ask for from people interested in this seat. Kara suggested that perhaps we can ask for some letters of support. I hear some interest from that. Can we get some sense of whether that is something we'd like to ask for in our notice? Okay.
Are we gonna take a vote on that?
Just nods will be sufficient,
Reach a consensus on it.
or some shaking of the heads. Okay.
I'm not looking for it now.
Okay. Seems like there's some more folks who would like to get some kind of a letter of support as an additional data point, and I think we can do that in a way that is focused. I again, from we get to structure our meeting on the 21st. Again, the way we want to structure our meeting on the 21st. I'm quite uncomfortable with having public comment. I like the idea of letters of support. I don't like the idea of public comment of support. I think that is personally, I think that quickly becomes an unhealthy process.
Question that, can we restrict that?
We cannot restrict public comment at our business meeting. We can decide whether we have how we arrange our meeting. And so if we'd like to have these parts of the meeting that we have discussed having at that meeting before any of that, the rest happens, we can do that as well.
But I think what Dr. Mouse is asking, and you listen to me very closely, I don't want to misquote what you said, but anyway, I think what you're asking prior to the 21st, before 4 o'clock on the 21st, if a citizen from District 2 or anywhere in this community would call in, sign up to speak in support of our candidate, we can't say no.
That's right. But what we can do is make it clear that we're gonna have this selection done before the public comment section. We can say our special meeting for the election of this person, for hearing from candidates, for voting on candidates, happens before our regular business meeting. That's ours to determine. You can, Mr. Crook, you can let me know if I'm saying that wrong.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just that if we decide to have the portion of either a special meeting or a separate meeting, or the portion of the meeting where we decide on who's going to sit with us on the 21st, before our regular agenda of a business meeting, is that ours to decide?
It's yours to decide, and that would be the cleanest way. If you have a call meeting, you do not have a standard public comment section for that. So you can have a call meeting prior to your regular meeting. Or even if you do it in your regular meeting, you can always suspend the rules to not allow comment for that one meeting. Right. There's no requirement that you do that. That's just part of your standard procedure.
And to be totally clear, I would love public comment to emails to me, calls to me. I'd be happy to feel. I want to do all those things. And if I love engaging with people who are interested in any of our issues before us, including this one. I think knowing how our board meetings run, and knowing sort of how that it just gets out of hand quite quickly, and that seems like an unhealthy process to me.
Let me apologize apologize. I am looking for that notice that went out when I replaced Reverend Nunley. So I'm not playing on my phone for people that like to call me and say board members were playing on their phones. But I'm actually looking for that notice.
I can verify what she's looking for.
Ms. Davis, what you have in front of you is basically that same notice.
That same
where you
notice.
adjusted for these circumstances where it's for the remainder of the term, non-special election.
I thought we had those questions on that notice though, for some reason.
No, we have not been able to find those questions.
When I
But
get
that's
home,
something-
I'll go back into my computer and find those questions, because I don't delete anything.
Okay, what,
Mr. Davis,
what I would suggest is, you know, if we, and I understand, I can share your jitteriness about just, you know, having, I mean, we may end up with 50, 60 people speaking on.
you could have 200 people speaking.
What I would like to do is make whatever material that the public wants to give us, whether it's part of the application process of the candidate, I don't want it to be restricted. And so, you know, and so it would be written comments. But you know, if there's a 8-year-old who has an opinion and they write 3 sentences, I would like to see that, you know, on behalf of someone, if it's
How would you like to see that?
I mean, in other words, I'm just fleshing this out. I mean, you can, if we want to not make it part of the application process per se, but if part of the advertisement says, that we are looking, what we're looking for is feedback from District 2. And that if we can set up a way that they can weigh in with us, it doesn't maybe have to accompany a set resume, you know, somebody's resume and letter of intent. It can just be coming right from folks. So that's another way of looking at it. So it's not like you're applying for a faculty position where you need 3 letters of reference. Instead, we are purposely asking the community to help weigh in. And then each individual board member, that we're given that information, however it comes, and that we can choose to ignore it, or we can look at it very carefully, depending on what our choice is. So that's.
And I personally anticipate that, you know, because again, our home addresses, phone
But
numbers,
I'm
emails.
talking about something that
all
we're
over
actually
our website.
advertising for, and not just kind of, you know, because, I mean, there are issues that I wait by the phone, waiting for somebody to call me, and I never get that phone call. So this way, we are inviting folks, and so that would be part of our invitation right from the beginning.
But the law says that we make the choice.
That's
It doesn't
right.
say we invite people, it doesn't say you do a special election, absent that clause where we miss that window for
We
to have
make
a
the
special
decision.
election. These says we make the decision.
We are gonna make the decision. We have to. We don't have to
And
restrict.
we're gonna own that decision regardless of how much input we solicit. or
You're right,
get.
you're
So-
right. Just like the voters are, they're stuck
And
with
I'm not
me.
opposed to people telling us what they want. I'm confident that, like, I've already been told what people want, so it's gonna keep happening until we make that choice.
Yeah, we're turning this into a campaign.
And
Jerry.
Yes. Yes.
First of all,
Madam,
sorry,
thank you.
man, I was in Atlanta working, and at 85, but someone posted it live, thank you, I heard everything. Good to see everything. But, I tend to, I would like to see, you know, if we had a separate meeting for public comments, because it's very important to me what the people in that district wants for, you know, in the person that's representing them. You know, whether it's personal, for whatever reason, I think there's value in knowing what the people in their district, they know these people every day, and they're confident in, you know, what they feel that they can do to support their issues. So I feel uncomfortable voting for someone else's district, and I would like to get as much information, whether it be letter of reference, or, as well as, you know, an opportunity for public comment. I don't want to be about convenience. I want us to take the time to really make sure that we weigh in and hear what the community has to say.
And again, where I was coming back from is not at all not one. It's the difference, I guess, between a vote for someone and a public comment. Public comment in my mind, it takes a shape of very differently than supporting someone in a voting situation, and it doesn't sort of stand in as a proxy in my mind, because it becomes, again, who can come out on a Thursday night, who can bring people out on a Thursday night, who can speak in ways that are persuasive, who can speak in ways that are loud, and I think the vote, which is not what we're doing. The democratic process is it's different. It's different than a public comment, and I don't want to be, the public comment sort of takes on a life of its own, and that is totally different than a democratic process. It's more of a democratic process.
One of the things, in terms of, it was something Greg said earlier, I'll come back to it. It was something
Mr. Davis, yes.
Since because you just sparked something in me, and I just, and I know Charles is over here sitting, what now? But, what I'm wondering is that if we do have this meeting that you're talking about in advance, where what we do is that we go into the district and we basically hear from the community. And there's no voting that day. It's just, I'm just throwing that out there. I'm just kind of thinking about ways of getting folks involved in this process, because this is, we're elected. This Board of Education used to be appointed. And I've known people who were appointed to the Board of Education, and Charles can probably tell me when it changed. In the 90s?
There's a fine line between gathering input and advocating our responsibility as board members, and that's.
We can't.
Sure, we can.
We have to vote.
We are to vote, but at what point are we replacing our responsibility with some other, who's loud, who gets people out, who
still got
the
one
process.
And I can decide to blow all that off, or I can decide to wait. It's up to me. You can make your decision. Charles can make his decision.
I think it goes to as well, like, looking at what are some of the reasons we would not want to, what are the reasons that we would want to change a meeting format? It sounds like I heard the options were to have a call meeting before, where that would restrict public comment, or perhaps change the order of the meeting. And it sounds like we've agreed on the fact that we want a letter of interest, we want a couple letters of support, and with Mr. Davis, what he was mentioning is possibly having some other artifacts or something. And so if the process is going to already be open for public comment, I think what we're trying to do is put parameters, which I guess is within our right, but put parameters around the feedback that we get for our comfort. I do acknowledge that it can really go bad. It really can. Like, it can get unruly. It can go bad. It can be 100 speakers. We could be here all night. People could be very upset. There could be arguments. There could be a lot of different things. But I anticipate there are going to be a lot of other pretty tense decisions that have to be made in the future, whether they're about board seats and things of that nature. And I personally would like to see us sort of embrace some of those, because we have no control over what happens during the public comment session about any topic. And there is always this sort of fear, but I think if we say, well, yeah, we want feedback, but we're gonna determine that this is the only way we can get feedback, that is more for our comfort. And if it goes wrong, yes, we have to accept responsibility. I'm sure I'll play this back and look at it and say, yeah, that was like the worst idea in the world. But I do think that's a part of the process of learning and growing, and we're not gonna always get it right. We're gonna make some huge mistakes, and we're gonna make some great steps, but I think shying away from a particular process because it gives us either a little less control or more discomfort, I'm not inclined to do that, but I certainly, respect your opinion about it.
Right, and I think my concern is less about ceding control and more about having something that hurts the work that we're trying to do. Because this process can build confidence in the board, can build, if we are transparent in what we're doing, if we're transparent in what we're asking for, it will build confidence in our ability to be a good steward of the seats that we sit in. I think if we have, but it also has a potential. We've seen lots of issues go sideways on us. Issues that we thought were we had the best intentions and the best, but for in hindsight, clear reasons went sideways. And what I would like to do is is have a process that builds strength and builds relationship among us as a board and us with the community and their confidence in our ability to be good members of the Board of Education. And so it's not just about, for me, it's not just about not wanting to see control, it's about the potential to do some damage with the relationship that we have with the community.
I think that I have confidence in the board members to be able to listen to public comment and not be persuaded by the loudest voice necessarily, or even people that have the most supporters. And so I think that the more input, the better. I usually side on the side of sunshine and openness, and that's what Dr. Green said we needed to really emphasize was transparency. So I think the more transparent we are with regard to the community, I think that's how you build trust with the community. So if whatever mechanisms we can devise to allow input that doesn't necessarily disrupt the vote itself, because I think that's part of the concern here is having it happen right on the heels of the vote. How about let's find a way to do that? Find ways for district to tell us what they've been missing over the last several months without someone at the seat. And then we can make the best decision. That seems to fit right in line with what we're called to do. We're put in this position because of the timing of the vacancy. And so it seems best to err on the side of transparency with the people of the district.
And I'm not hearing anybody advocating for lack of transparency, and please correct me if I'm wrong. I think the question becomes sort of what transparent,
Right.
what we're putting out there, and this is part of the transparency. And the question is, among the 8 of us, what does not only a transparent process, which we're all on board with, look like, but also a healthy process? And you can have things that are unhealthy be very transparent. I don't hear us wanting that, and what we're doing right now is debating, what healthy looks like.
Okay, Jared, I think we need to I think we're to the point right now, either the majority of the board wants or is willing to accept, and sets the structure up so we have written and verbal support from District 2, or we don't. And I know there's some folks who feel uncomfortable with that, but I think that the majority of us, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I think the majority of us want both, and I'm convinced of the verbal as well as the written. I think the majority of us want that. And so now so once we decide that, then we can decide how do we collect the written, how do we collect the verbal?
Jared,
That's yes.
and that's what I want to go back to. I actually like having an opportunity that we have a place somewhere online where people could submit to us directly, because I can see it being very chaotic with people, sending a lot of information to me and each one of us that they still do, but I think it would streamline things if we had an electronic process, which, you know, could be easily done on our webpage for people to just click and share whatever their comments are. I think, you know, I'm in favor of something like that as well.
And you want to see that sort of in, how does
I
that
would do
relate
like
to?
with the public policy.
Sure,
Same
sure.
type of way, you know, it's open-ended, and so you type in whatever your comments are about, you know, maybe what they're looking for to represent, or it might just be about a specific person.
Mhm.
And so is that gonna be limited to people in District 2, and how do we know that?
Right.
When we get letters and emails, we might not be limited, because their grandma might live in District 2, and they don't, you know, so.
Yeah. So,
I think,
yeah,
you know,
it's a lot of work there.
But really, it doesn't make any difference.
Yeah, 'cause
We're
still
trying to put a person in District 2 seat, okay? But we're talking about the community as a whole. So therefore, they sent, and let me assure all of you, you're gonna get some public comments. You're gonna get some phone calls, okay? Yeah, that's gonna happen, you know, so I guess in a sense, why we continue to discuss this.
The question is, the question, and again, to be totally clear, you know, I'm just trying to facilitate this conversation. I'm expressing my opinion at the same time trying to facilitate it. If it's the interest of the board to have public comment, that is A-okay with me. And the question right now we're arriving at is whether that is what the board wants. That's right. That's right. And I'm hearing, you know, from a few folks on this side, and certainly you, Greg, as well, that you would like to open the floor for public comment in support of candidates, or not candidates, people who are interested in being considered to sit in this seat. Is there anyone aside from me, because you all know where I sit on this? Maybe this is because I'm the one that has to conduct the meeting, but which is a different seat to sit in. But anyone else feel strongly that that's a bad idea? Want to talk about why, or?
I think, again, I don't think we have to formalize every comment that comes across the board to us. I think that people will organically, as they already have, has anybody on this board not already been contacted about this vacancy?
I have,
Seriously? That's scary. Okay. So, I mean, it started with me long before Mr. Payne ever sent his resignation in. So all summer long, I've been getting these calls and phone calls. So again, my thoughts are that some things happen organically. I also think that the work of this board is not to fill this seat. We've got some serious pressing issues in this district that we really need to address. And I want us to look at the time that we're spending on this. And I want us to make a good decision. I get that. But if it's ultimately our decision, how much information do we really need to make that? And I want us to look at it from that lens, if you will. And again, still operating within the law, operating within our policies. I want us to start to be more efficient at getting to those things that we can actually handle ourselves. Everything doesn't require this level of conversation, and the transparency is always there. So I'm not sure what it would garner us to organize some type of campaign to say who we want for this seat. That happens when the election happens in 2020.
I think that if we were to sort of let this process happen naturally and not change the agenda, it sounds like that meeting would have public comment anyway. And so it's not that me personally, that I would advocate for people, like just tell them to bring all their speakers to the, no, but I certainly want that to be an option. Now, we may not have a lot of people. Some people are not comfortable with public comment. That's the same reason they may contact us about other issues via phone or email. And so it's just having all of those options, you know, like that are just still open. Like a person, as Dr. Maddox said, we had a streamlined way that someone may just want to use that form. They may want to call our phone number. They may want to send a text. They may want to email us. And you may have a few that may just want to come here that are a little bit, you know, more okay with their being in front of an audience. And so I don't necessarily see us encouraging people to come and say, you know, we'll bring all of your supporters with you, certainly. not, but it's just one more way to have that. And I do want to say that I don't think that if there is chaos or if things go really wrong, I don't think that that means the process was not healthy. We get to determine the degree of health that goes into this. And that is how much, not necessarily that we agree with each other, but how much we sort of support the process moving along and support you as you moderate the meeting. And I would assume that, as with any meeting, if someone is going outside of the bounds of their time, if they are beginning to be disruptive in some way, we would respond the same way I would imagine, however that's been addressed before in the past to get order of that meeting. And so I don't think people's emotions and how they feel about whoever it is they want to support and whether they do it, I don't think that'll determine the health. And I know I heard you mention that there have been meetings before where, we had good intentions and it just didn't turn out that way. I would argue that that doesn't necessarily say that the process wasn't healthy. And so I think we have a bit more control over that and how we respond to people and I think now it does add some pressure, but if someone does come in here with 30 people and we have to determine what are we making our decision on? And so certainly it adds pressure, public pressure, but I think that's a part of creating a healthy process. We're not gonna all make the same decisions. We're gonna make some wrong ones and we're not gonna make popular ones. But I think that's a part of the process, so.
Let me hear your question again, Jared, because I thought that we were at this place of the organic things that happen as a part of our protocol, right? We have public comment, people can use public comment, they just have to get their name on the list before 4 o'clock. Nobody said stop that, right? We did talk about moving the vote ahead of that, so it didn't turn into a campaign rally. We talked about that.
And I
And
guess
what I'm
that's the
hearing you
thing
say
where-
is that we don't want to do that. And can we settle that piece and say, okay, let it be business as usual if that's what we think we need to do?
I think you're right. I think the crux of the question is whether, we're starting to talk about the agenda for the meeting on the 21st and whether we make this decision around hearing from candidates and voting on people interested in this, in fulfilling this, being considered to fill this seat before or after the time of our usual public comment. That's what we're talking about. And obviously where some people who have spoken said, I want to hear from people who haven't necessarily applied so far. Carrie, yes, please.
I think we should leave it as it generally is, and I think very similar to what Lakeisha just said. I think we're all gonna vote based on different things, and for some of us, that information will be important, and for others, that won't be something that you weigh. But I don't think we need to formalize it and say you must do this, but just have it as an opportunity, and if people use it, then we can decide for our own selves whether or not that is weighing on your decision.
We shall that and take a vote.
No, we're not taking votes on that, but we are hearing that the majority of people do want to see in terms of process, I should say in terms of the agenda for that meeting, they do want to see us taking the vote and us hearing from candidates after what we usually have is the public comment. And that's, again, that sounds like the consensus of the board. So moving on, we have. So we're talking about a letter of interest from, I don't know what a biographical sketch means. I was born on a dark and stormy night. I think if we have just called a letter of interest, a statement of interest or something like that, this is why people can interpret that as what they want to submit to us to consider.
Mr. President.
We talk about 2 letters of support as well, as there's some consensus around that as well. It's also been resumes, so I don't know.
Well, but the biographical sketch, when you look at the biography of you, we don't want a full story. It's just a sketch of you. Yeah, you are. That's all it is.
And would that be different than a statement of interest?
Yes, sure.
And is it different from a resume, or is it?
It's
It's a
similar,
little bit of a who.
similarities,
A little bit
yes,
more.
yes,
The biographical sketch is who you are.
absolutely,
The letter of
absolutely.
interest is what you want to do.
So we do want to, I'm hearing from some folks over here, we do want to ask for a biographical sketch. Anybody else feel strongly about this? What we call a biographical sketch? Okay. So we're asking for a biographical sketch.
We should
And
explain to people what that is.
But-
Or give a limit.
Or give like some example of.
If they don't know what that is,
Okay,
they
so
don't need
now,
to,
let's stop, because we're asking somebody to sit on the board of education.
don't know that, come on, folks.
Well, I mean, I think a biographical sketch
I don't
might
think
be,
it's there.
might,
Well,
mean
it's
something
up to-
different to
it's
people.
up to your interpretation, you can
Yeah.
submit something, so let's,
Alright.
okay. I don't want us to make it hard for this person to do this. They should
Right.
have some.
Well, let's
knowledge.
tell us about yourself.
Yeah, that's all.
Okay.
And we could generally ask for relevant information, more generally. I mean, because this is going to go in the notice. If we submit, Athens Banner Herald's going to charge us a fortune for all the things we're going to put in there. But we're talking about what we're going to enumerate in this particular notice.
I think the letter of intent is, why are you applying? Okay, so I would clarify letter of intent as, why are you applying?
How about interest, would that work better? Would
Sure.
that clarify it?
Letter of interest and a biographical
Is that better?
sketch. Expressing such interest to the Board of Education, as well as letters of support.
Can I just raise the question, why are we limiting the two? I'm just trying to, I'm not saying.
How many do you want?
Huh?
How many do you want?
Well, I don't know,
It doesn't matter, right? Because we're gonna make our vote based on something else, right?
well, but the thing is, hearing from folks, again, I think that what I see is that we want to be as, however folks want to, if a candidate wants to project themselves, I'm an expert on education. I've got a PhD in education. That's what I'm pushing forward. Somebody else may say, I'm interested in this position because I've got the feel for the community. Okay, both of those, we're still going to have to decide what's most important to you when you vote. And so I don't, if we limit it to two formal letters, so to speak, of support, then I would suggest do exactly what Tawana said, and also have a forum, so I can call up, not me per se, but somebody can call up and say, I heard so-and-so is running. Let me tell you why I think they're such a good fit, okay?
Which is, yes. So there's a difference on the background and on the back end, what we sort of set up online perhaps, comment section, we've done it with policy. I'd imagine Dr. Means, would that be difficult to do, gather comments for something else?
So if we do that, I settle for two levels. If people feel comfortable with that, I say two.
I can take it twice. Okay. So we're asking for 2 letters of support.
Is this up to 2 letters?
Are you
Up
required?
to.
Up to
Okay.
2 letters.
And it's not
Yeah,
required.
too, because
Well, wait,
I
this is
think some people aren't.
It's not required, or is it required?
No, it's not required.
No, that's what we need.
But if they so choose, that can be part of their package.
But they can't send 3.
No.
Well,
No.
They can send it, but we don't have to look
No,
at it.
The reality is anybody who wants to email us a 3rd, 4th, 100th letter of support, they
Right.
have all our email.
we're talking about what's in the package.
Yeah.
Okay, so up to 2 letters of support, and this is, how do we feel about the rest of this language? We talked about deadline will swing, February 14th.
14, right.
And that would be, I think we have our notice. Any outstanding questions?
So when are you going to pose these questions and how are you going to communicate them to candidates?
The questions for, I see. So Greg's questions about what we want them to address in their couple minutes. We could talk about, we need to say how many minutes and what we want them to respond to. That could be something we reply back to them after we receive the information, if we'd like.
Yes.
But do we want to say in the notice that they will be expected to come to that meeting on the
I don't think we need to say it
No,
particularly in the
you don't.
notice.
Well, they're out.
No, I'm hard nosed on those things. You have an interest, you come. If not, we also want to remind you.
But they might, I mean, if we're putting out a notice now and we know that.
Notice out after we get those applicants.
On the 15th, when we would know, when the deadline is closed for who's submitted stuff, we can reply with an email, letting them know that they're expected to speak for 2 minutes and address these topics, or whatever it is that we, these 3 questions. I think that would be a reasonable way to do it. So that we can be able to hear from people.
Do you want to say 2 minutes, 3 minutes?
Yeah, probably not two.
Yeah,
How many minutes?
let's stick with our 3 minutes that we do with the public.
Nobody used it, we had 5, we didn't use it.
How many minutes would we like to give folks? We have
I'm for
5,
sticking with
2.
the 3 that we gave the public.
No, they're good.
They
I
are
agree
board members,
with you
yeah.
on the 5.
They're trying to become a board member.
Nobody really didn't talk.
You said 5?
5 is good. Don't you think?
No, 3.
I'm
What
still
about 4?
Right.
2 is 4.
3 or 4.
Let's say 3, if it go to 4 is fine.
5, I think they can 5. Okay, I think 5 it is.
All right.
Is this the notice or just part of your response back?
This is part of the response back.
I still feel like we should tell them, if we know right now that we're gonna ask them to speak on that day, I feel like not telling them until the 14th seems like they could have had all this time to think about it.
I think this-
okay with that. I hear you say, this is a line that says that, you
Yeah.
know,
You will, I mean, we don't have to say anything very specific about
successful
it.
applicants will speak up.
And I think we can rely on, the word is going out as we speak, actually,
Right.
and some of the news coverage and whatnot of this very thing, we'll talk about this process and what is expected.
And people are definitely still watching.
Absolutely, popcorn in hand.
And I think a part of that advertisement should also state what Tawana was saying about, we are inviting District 2 folks to comment, and we can work on the wording of that. But I do think that needs to be out there from the beginning, because I do think it lets the public know that yes, we're making a decision, but we are interested.
So the notice is the legalese, the legal sort of fulfilling this part. I mean, this is all going to go out in press releases, and I think that would be an appropriate place to talk about. There are places online to leave public comment and all. A lot of
And they don't even have to specify a certain candidate. They can go on public comment and disagree with the way that we were proceeding. I mean, but I think that we should let people know that we are interested in, right from the beginning, in what folks in District 2 are interested in. And we can't filter them.
No,
But
it's not, so we just know what people are interested in.
Right, but I think
Dr.
we
Mason, maybe
want to,
that's a part of whatever press release goes out with this information. So, great, thank you. We have a few more, items to get through.
Oh, really?
You have something?
I wanted to ask a couple of things about qualifications. Is that where you're headed?
Qualifications are here on this sheet, right?
Right.
And these are by statute, is that right? So
Yeah.
we don't necessarily touch these?
Right. No, I'm not trying to touch them. I want an interpretation.
Scary, John.
No.
Okay, go ahead.
I just want to make sure, in number 9, it says may not be employed in any capacity by the Clark County Board of Education, but he or she may be an employee of another local Board of Education. That's good. And then in point 14, may not have an immediate family member sitting on the board or serving as the superintendent or as a principal, assistant principal, or system administrative staff. And immediate family member means spouse, child, sibling, or parent, or, there are all these ors, or the spouse of a child, sibling, or parent. So that includes in-laws. I was asked about this, and I wanted to ask it where we had.
That's all straight out of state statute.
I know, I just want to know what it means. I'm not putting the
Parent
word.
or spouse.
No, I don't, it doesn't seem like it means in-laws, it seems like it means like the spouse of a child, a sibling or parent, like a step-parent.
The parent of a spouse,
Parent of
or
the
the
spouse.
spouse of a child, sibling or parent. This is, yeah, this is a little bit beyond the scope of our conversation.
Okay, I was asked by a member of the public, and I thought I'd ask it while we had some people in the room who might be able to answer. If it's too complicated, we can move on.
We have an attorney here.
We do.
Should be able to know.
I'll look it up.
He's gonna chew on that for a minute.
That's research.
We have, what questions do we want people to be prepared to discuss in their 5 whole minutes? Why you're interested, why they're interested in serving on the Board of Education?
I mean, I don't know any questions off the top of my head, but we had some questions that we were sent for forums and things that I thought were good questions, but we don't have to decide it right now, maybe we could.
I'd like to get complete, in the sake of transparency, I want to make sure that, everyone is on board with the questions that are going to go out in response to the people who will apply. And so I think, obviously why you're interested in serving on the Board of Education.
I think one I have is what does the person see as the biggest challenge in educating children in Clark County?
I was kind of along that same line, thinking, what is the number one priority for educating children in Clark County?
I couldn't hear that one.
Mine was just around priority, you're saying challenge, I'm around priority.
Okay, I can go with that.
So a question around why, question around priorities. Two questions?
I think one is what.
I mean, these are all going to be very open-ended, so the reality is people can say whatever they want to say regardless of the questions we ask. And so I think.
Well, what special skill would they bring to the Board of Education? Since we all have different backgrounds.
Perhaps we can just talk about contribution more generally than special skill.
Well,
Because
can we ask that question?
I like what Dr. Knox said.
Special skills.
Yeah,
And that can be very open. I don't mean technical skills necessarily.
Can we ask that?
You can ask whatever we want.
Well, I don't know about that.
No, whatever.
No,
Well, ask anything legal, and special skills is a legal, is fine, but I don't know what information, I feel like, what I don't want is to ask questions that feel exclusive.
Like you're probing for something.
Like we need another PhD, no offense,
What?
PhDs.
What about like, what is something that you bring?
Yeah, I like that.
Well, instead of saying special skills, you can say what skill set. Because I think the word special may be bothering some people. It doesn't bother me. If you say what skill set do you bring to this board?
Well, I think that this is what concerns me, this is what makes me nervous, right? So we have the criteria of what they must be able to do to be a board member, 100%, this is it, right?
That's right.
And so for us to probe deeper into that is invasive, it seems inappropriate, it seems a whole lot of different things, right?
It is different than the typical process, but we are in that.
But why would we then hold them to a higher standard than we were in?
I feel like that's the kind of question I was asked.
Not
Not
by
by
qualified
not by
role.
statute. So I mean, yeah, and so I mean, I want to know all those things, I want to know those things about us, but we can't ask it. I think we can't, I don't think that's one of those things we can ask. That
What-
we're just not-
what-
What is,
not-
sorry, I missed
What?
which question?
That, I don't know, when we ask people about what skill set we bring, you know, that one, find another way to get to that.
Okay, what about
answer.
what will you bring to the board? I mean, I want to see, like, again, as as you were pointing out, as Charles was pointing out, we want to, you know, we're looking at what's good for the board. So if somebody says, you know, I'm great at mediation, you know, that's what I'm bringing to the board, huh?
We want what's good for the kids, not what's good for the board.
Well,
We
again,
gotta figure out how to.
Well, I mean, I'm quoting Charles, I mean, in terms of making sure that the board functions properly.
Good luck with that one.
Yeah, that is blended
the
together.
reality is, again, we're putting general questions out there, and so I think if we talk about why
Why do you want to?
priorities for the, and skill set in general.
Okay.
I think we'd be
Well, I
okay.
just
The
like,
other way to ask it was, what are your strengths and your challenges?
I think I'd be more comfortable sort of like broad open,
What are your,
yeah, talk about
or
contributions
tell me
to the board.
something about yourself.
As dark as stormy night. So we have those questions.
what is it, what was the skill set? I just don't like the word skill set necessarily.
Then
These
they
are
say,
questions
make
that
it
would be
policy.
going out in response
That's
to
one of
people.
our roles, that's part of our role.
Why you want to be on the Board of Education. The wording of this priorities question is tricky because the reality is we have a role on the Board of Education. Perhaps you can ask that.
That's what I just said to Mr. Davis there, because one of the roles that we have is what, make policies. Another one, stewards of the budget. They may bring a skill set in terms of dealing with finance. I don't see anything wrong with that.
We could say what would your priorities be on the Board of Education? So to make sure we're not sort of CCSD generally.
And count.
So asking about priorities for the board that they see and what skill set they would bring to this position. Okay, good.
I would want to know a little bit about their thoughts on equity. I mean, that's integrated into everything we do, but I don't know if it has to be a question, maybe it'll come out
I
in
think we'll
your
hear
letter.
it, or we won't hear it.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's my, that's my sense. If it's not a priority for them, I don't think we'll hear it. The final thing I think is important and is the voting process for the night of the 21st, which we have not discussed. If we have 35 candidates, if we have 6 candidates, how are we going to whittle that down to one person? And I think, you know, we have often had people nominate someone, say, I suggested so-and-so would be a good candidate to this, and take a vote on that, on that person. I think that gets a little sticky. I would much rather find some way to get down to 2 people that we are all excited about, and then vote among those 2 people.
Well, the deadline is what, 14th?
14.
Then, of course, if you have, well, your example, 35 to submit a package, then we as a board, we need to whittle that down,
That's right.
okay?
To decide who we're going to vote on.
But, you know, it could be the final 3, it could be the final 4.
How do we whittle though? I think that's our question.
Kind of gets
To
back to that whole
operationalize the whittling.
RFP, like, process that we've done, same thing we did with the superintendent, right? We come up with our criteria,
Yeah.
and then we rank everybody according to the criteria. That's why I was asking, do these letters carry weight? These are the things that I think we have to think about before we throw this out there and say, oh gee, we gotta work through this process.
But I don't know that we can have a criteria in general. I think the criteria would be each person has their own way of.
I
We
think,
get 35 applications.
Right.
Are we going to vote down, are we gonna sit here and bring 35 applicants to this board to speak about their priorities? Or their thing? Are we bringing 35 people forward? Does everybody that applied get a chance to speak? That's the question.
Will we use some type of rubric?
well, this is our decision to make, you know, I think we need to think about it. Obviously, if we have 3 people apply, it's very different, and 5 minutes for 3 people is quite easy. 5 minutes for 35 people is a challenge, right? And so I think we need to be, in the interest of transparency and deliberation, figure out now what we would like to see happen.
Okay, I guess, well, I don't know, is it legal for us to do that behind, I mean, I don't know what, at this point, what is legal. I mean, if we have, let's say, 10 folks who've applied for the job, they've got their letter of intent, they've got their biography or their background, they have 2 letters of recommendation. And so I'm sitting at home, can I prioritize?
You can, the question is how we do
But I
it.
mean, I'm just saying that, I mean, can I, along with everybody else, say, okay, I'm going to rate my top 3, 1, 2, 3, and then somebody consolidates what that comes out with, and then the ones that have the most votes. I mean, that doesn't seem like it's transparent, but we have to have some process to whittle it down.
I mean, if we determine that there's gonna be, you're gonna do some individual, each of us are gonna do some individual work and then submit it, to someone to arrive at some other list or some group of people to arrive at a list based on what, if we say what we're gonna do, then that's the transparency of it, right? We can't sort of meet behind closed doors.
No.
We can't violate open meetings laws. And I didn't
But we
understand
can't kind of make our selection. I mean, I kind of like the way, if we can, then I like the way with the, I forget what state, somewhere up in New England, where they, where people voted their, with their top choices, and then if 5 people, had number 2, the same person, then that person moved up the chain.
So that wouldn't work with our dates, because that would assume that you arrive on the 21st with some sort of ranking and you haven't heard from anyone. And I think I heard from folks that was an important part of the process.
Right, it is.
So we could lots of different things. We could draw some name out of a hat if we want to.
I like that. It's February.
So we would select
For the
our
Groundhog Day.
top 3, top 5, and then let's compile.
Based on, are you talking about on the night of the 21st? After
No, I'm talking about ahead of time. And then
those people,
those 5 folks who garnered with the most support among the board, then they would be asked to come present or top 3 or something.
So, okay, and so you're saying,
Let me restate what Greg said, and then
I want to hear about that, yeah.
So I'm hearing Greg say, if we, no matter the number of letters of the full packets that we get from folks, that before the meeting of the 21st, individual board members would list their only based on the submitted packet. You'd say your top 3 that you'd like to hear from the night of our board meeting on the 21st, and then we would compile, we would look at those and say which candidates have gotten the most interest and we would like to hear from the most, and hear from those people.
Well, now, who's going to do this compiling? There's the key. There's all sorts of preference, these preference primary stuff like Greg's talking about. Devil's in the math of that.
Yeah, okay.
If we did it that way and said an ad hoc committee of the board, with 3 members, sat down, got everyone's input, and said we have a cutoff of, the top 5, does that start to run afoul of things on the liberal side? If the answer is yes,
It's
well,
more
that's not-
appointed committee, so I mean, that committee's meeting itself will be open, but if for purposes of convenience, if the 8 of you would trust 3 of you to do that in an open meeting, then yeah, that would be legal.
Or, again, let me take us back to how we selected our superintendent, right? These are the district priorities. How does this person fit the work of the district? And we rank them based on, what we've had in front of us, which was just their submitted resumes, their information.
Do we get the same problem though of who creates the rubric and the scoring system or whatever that's going to look like?
Again, our strategic plan is out there, right? And we know what our priorities are in the district, and so does this person fit within these priorities? And again, rank them based on what we see that they've submitted to us. Is that possible? I don't know.
When you all
voted on Ms. Davis, what was the process? You just took an open vote, right?
Yes, what I said earlier, 2 people submitted packet. And, we reviewed that packet. We decided on some questions like we have said tonight. They stood at that podium, they spoke to the board, and after that, I asked whether there's any questions. Sat down, we raised our hand, and that was the end of the process.
And I think the challenge in just sort of recognizing the difference in time, then versus now, I just don't know what we do if, again, if 35 people submit full packets. And one option is to give 5 minutes each to 35 people. We can do that, have a big lunch and make a party out of it, but it's, and if that's what the group wants to do, we can do that. But,
Then we simply limit the number of votes you have, right? Everybody gets 2 votes, 3 votes, and that gets us down to some more manageable number, and then we repeat the process again based on who's eliminated. I'm good with that.
that's after hearing from folks?
Yeah.
So no matter the number of full packets we get, you want to give 5 minutes for everyone?
I was just going to address that.
Now I'm ready to go back.
35 people now, in 5 minutes now. I'm not staying at 1 o'clock in the morning. No, I'll be facetious.
I'm gonna order it pizza with it. But, again, if we're just simply gonna go by, by popular vote from the board, then I'm good with that. Or majority vote from the board. Instead
Again.
of making it complicated, yeah.
To be, and this is after hearing from folks. Okay. We're saying we want to hear from 5 minutes from each and every person who submits a full package, but I'm hearing the board say, not the board, I'm hearing a few people say, I want to see if this is where, I don't think that makes sense. Personally, I think that's,
Ludicrous, but that's okay.
we've done
It's
ludicrous,
fair.
we've done ludicrous before.
We've
Yeah.
done ludicrous.
Given that we boiled it down to 3 questions, I was thinking 5 minutes originally because I was thinking of 4 or 5 questions because that had kind of been thrown around. But if we've got, why do you want to serve, what's the number 1 priority, and what skill set or whatever be bring to the board, you could probably do that in 3 minutes.
That's it, and then the skill set question and, go with it, I think,
If
should
the
be evident
concern is
from-
having a 3-hour
should
meeting.
be evident from the information that they've submitted.
So I'm hearing, perhaps we let everyone who submitted a full packet, speak at the board meeting, but do 3 minutes instead of 5 minutes.
I agree.
I agree.
Okay.
So I just want to clarify, so the questions is what they speak about and not what they feel they give us in advance.
That's gonna go out to them, they're gonna have 3 minutes to address the board and address these questions.
So they won't be it won't be part of it. Their answers won't be part of the packet.
More than
No.
likely they will.
More likely they will, in reality.
So right from the beginning, we're gonna put that out there so that they know what we're looking for in terms of criteria.
That's gonna go out after people submit full packets, after the 14th. Is there, and
Okay, you
then,
see what I'm talking about? So we won't have that in advance, is what I'm saying.
no, not that we're
We
gonna hear that.
won't have the
These questions,
responses
you think that would
to
be
those
good?
3 questions prior to their presentation.
The reality is that's gonna be covered in the stuff that they've already submitted. And this will give them a chance to
Because
speak.
they know we've already posed the questions.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry,
Yes,
these don't have to do this.
That's right.
I'm talking to her to clarify too. So, at the end of the day, January 14th, everyone who submitted, will have submitted.
February 14th.
February 14th, I'm sorry. Someone in central office will then send these 3 questions to each person who submitted and with statements saying you are expected to be at the February 21st meeting and have up to 3 minutes to speak. Please address these within your presentation.
That's
Something
correct.
to that effect, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well stated.
So we won't have them in advance
No,
before they speak.
No.
Their responses.
correct.
Okay.
But they'll likely have answered at least why they want to do it. They know that.
Okay.
And so we're gonna give, everyone who submits a full packet, 3 minutes to speak. And, we will, remains open how we winnow down to, a final number to vote from. I think it's important that, whoever sits with us has sort of a majority support from their colleagues on the board. I don't like it. That's why I think if we, just vote for top 5 or something like this, and then the reality is, somebody who wins could win with 2 votes. And I think it would be important to have a vote, to winnow down to some final number, preferably 2, and then vote again is my preference.
Can you say that again? I'm trying to figure it out.
That's fine. I don't have the first bit of the process, but I have the second bit. So the second bit is first bit is we get to 2, and then vote among 2.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Dr. Meeks.
you have 2 options to vote.
Okay.
One option is, as our attorney has indicated, you can form a ad hoc committee of the board to winnow down the candidates in front of the public. So at some point, while all 8 of you are sitting here, 3 will be given the charge to decide what that final slate will be. That's one option. The second option is that you follow Robert's Rules of Order and someone makes a motion to nominate someone and then it's seconded. And then you vote on each of those names.
On the names that are,
So someone can
nominated
and
and
then
seconded.
you'll just have to continue the vote. So if there are a total of 7 names that are submitted, you continue to vote until someone emerges out of that group that has the majority vote.
Are you voting yes, no on each person then, or?
Yes, you
Sure.
are.
I like Robert's Rules of Order.
Until one candidate
Until
has
someone emerges.
a majority.
Those are the 2 options. And even if you go with option 1, eventually you're gonna have to then defer to option 2 anyway.
Sure.
At some point, Robert's Rules of Order is going to rule the day. So if the first step is it sounds like you were trying to come up with a plan to winnow down the group if it's a large number. And the only way you can winnow it down is by appointing an ad hoc committee that would then do that work. But again, please know, in front of the public.
Mm-hmm. And that winnowing, which I get would be complicated. Can they take input from the rest of the board in that winnowing process, such as a ranking of each of our top 3?
You could do it that way, but then I would just submit, the whole board should do that work as a body, as a committee of the whole versus an ad hoc.
The struggle I have with the Robert's Rules of Order, which I like the order that it presents, but there is certainly a bias towards coming first in that process.
Well, I think there's 2 challenges with Robert's Rules of Order. One is who submits first. The other is how long do you, as the chair, keep the floor open? And what's that special spot where it doesn't feel like you're closing the floor too long, but you're not keeping it open too long either. Or you're not closing it too short, but you're not keeping it open long. That's going to be a challenge. It really becomes an issue for you, sir.
Thank you.
I would tell you, it can work. It's a challenge for the whole board to stay focused in that conversation, but county I represent recently went through this exact same process.
Speak up, please, Mike.
County I represent went through this process appointing a replacement in the industrial development board. So they had 5 candidates, all outstanding pillars of the community. Before any motions made, there was board discussion. 2 candidates quickly emerged, and then a consensus quickly from there comes around one of those, and they appointed that person by unanimous vote, which was a nice show of support. That would be an ideal way for things to work.
And that's just in the conversation that happens before any motions are made, just have to.
Correct.
So we would not have to go through vote each one.
Well,
individually.
Assuming we could do that.
Assuming the 8 of you can do that, correct?
All right. I need a roadmap, okay.
Well, and if, you talked about leaving the floor open, I don't even, I mean, we can dive into the Robert's rules so that everyone understands exactly what that would look like, but if I nominate Lakeisha and she's seconded, then there's a discussion, there's a chance for amendments to that motion, and eventually call for a vote on, an up or down vote for that motion, right? And it would be a motion for her to sit in the seat.
Yeah, it's actually, you would be making a motion to appoint that person.
That's right.
This is not a nomination process, it's an appointment process.
And so that motion would either pass, I mean, then the whole board would vote. And if there's a majority of people who vote, and this is just number one of who knows how many on the list. But if the majority of people who vote on it, then we don't even talk about the other people on the list.
Exactly, that's what Dr. Lee just described, right?
So, Mike, if I can just clarify, if we had, let's say we have 6 people, and so the president says, okay, we're now going to, we've heard from these candidates, we're now gonna have a discussion. And I'm assuming that we can't just say candidate A, candidate B, candidate C, we have to mention it by name. Okay. So I would say, I think, I personally feel like Mike Pruitt is qualified to be in this position and would be an asset to the board. And then John would say somebody else, and Linda would say somebody else, and then we would just have a conversation. And then I could say, Linda, I do agree with what you're saying.
I don't know.
It wouldn't be that way. Huh?
There's no other way it could happen.
Okay.
The only variable would be if you want to hold yourself to this, we have to make a motion before we begin discussion. Which would be strict Robert's rules. I would suggest you could, if you want to be formal about it, you could suspend the rules to allow yourself to discuss prior to a motion.
Yeah, I want the discussion first.
But the reality is, any one of the 8 of us could stop that process from happening if they make a motion.
Correct.
And now the floor.
That's right.
And then going back to what Greg said a few minutes ago now, if you're going to have the discussion before a motion is made, then you got to suspend the rules.
We could do it, what I hear from our attorney is we could just have that conversation, or if we want to be more formal about it, you're right, we could suspend it.
Yeah, you got to suspend the rules to do it. You don't have a discussion before a motion and a second. That comes after.
Typically, but I think there is
Yeah.
flexibility in the rules, either to suspend them officially or to have that conversation.
I'll give you one example of how it will work.
But I just don't
You
feel
can do that
comfortable.
if you want.
I don't feel comfortable saying, I nominate Mike Pruitt for the position, okay? And then I'm looking for, okay, you second that, and then, right out of the gate, I've already put something out there and pushing it forward first. I'd rather try to reach some type of consensus. You know, I'd rather be here an hour and a half and have that discussion than just throw a name out, get a second, and see if I've got 4 people to other people to go with me.
I agree with you, but that's a hard thing to do. Yeah, in the meeting standpoint, for all of us sitting around, it's hard to have 8 minds arrive at the same place at the same time, which is we have gone from 35 to 10, or from 10 to 3, or from 3 to 2. And so this is, and quite frankly, I think it would require a level of discipline that we have never had.
Not demonstrated.
Not demonstrated yet. How about that?
It's coming.
And if I could throw in, I haven't ever noticed the fact that motions been made has impeded the length of the discussion that follows that, so I don't think that's gonna have a great impact. It's gonna require self-discipline, whichever way you go.
But when you say motion, you're talking about one person's name out there first.
Correct.
I don't feel comfortable with that. So,
But
the alternative, and again, I think this might be scaling back a bit of what we've already put out there so far, would be to have some, to move forward some of these dates and have some preliminary discussion in our work session, which is 2 weeks before that. If there's any interest in being deliberate about some of the winnowing that needs to happen, we could have a much more open forum for discussion during the work session. That would obviously move forward a lot of those things.
I want to do that. I'd rather move it into March than do either one of those. I mean, do that.
And is there no way to do like a rank, we can't do a ranking during the meeting?
During the meeting?
You can do it, but eventually you have to divert back to Robert's Rules of Order.
But if our ranking could get down to,
You can do, that's informal,
it's informal,
and eventually you have to take action.
right?
And so it's an action of the board, so eventually you're gonna have to take a vote. And you typically get there as a board of education through Robert's Rules of Order. So in essence, by ranking that's the equivalent of having your ad hoc or whole group
Discussion.
committee work being completed. So you can either have an ad hoc group do it in public, or you can do it as a committee as a whole.
I mean, to that end, if we had a list of whoever's going to speak, so everyone who's committed a full packet, and at the conclusion of people speaking, each of us, and this is the process to get through, but each of us identify 3 people or 2 people that identify 3 people who we would like to we feel comfortable sitting in that seat. And pass them to me. We could tabulate and figure out the top 2 from those, and then agree that that we're going to be voting between those 2. This would be all within the discussion part of before something is a motion is made, I should say.
So in that scenario, we just have the names, and then each time we have, as soon as that person speaks, each one of us ranks that person, or
I think ranking gets complicated.
Or writes that
I think just a tick in the box.
Like 1, 2, 3, or just these 3.
1, 1, 1, right? And so then we pass them in, and you and I say, this person number 1 had interest from some number of people, person number 2, and we just, we make those tick marks, and then whoever arrives at the top 2, I can read those out as a informational. This is not the decision, but informationally, these 2 candidates have garnered with the most interest, and then someone can make a motion on one of those, and then by
Yeah, I'm
default,
still
the
kind
other
of
person.
visualizing
Dividing,
that.
Yes.
Just for clarification,
How
so
we
it
do
goes back to where we started at 5:30. This is not easy. And so even if you vote by ballot, everyone will have to write their name on the ballot,
Right,
and eventually that ballot is open to
sure.
for the public. So it doesn't matter if you do it by voice vote, if you do it by ad hoc committee, if you do it by whole committee, at some
Not
point.
secret. These are not
This
secret.
is,
Yeah.
and I think that's the unique, so I'll go back to what Mr. Davis said to start the meeting. This is the uniqueness of this timing with this vacancy. The Board of Education, not, and I think the way that the law reads, not the people of that district. The 8 of you get to pick who that person's going to be. You, obviously, as a board, you can create any kind of culture you want in regards to how you want to make your decision. But the law states that it rests with the 8 of you, and how you come to your decision. I think it speaks volumes to how you want to engage and conduct your work. Not only with, I think you said that earlier, Mr. Chair, not only with this decision, but with all decisions moving forward as a Board of Education. But just for clarity, whatever direction you go, it's going to be a very public decision for you.
Yeah, and I was thinking of the ranking on paper, not for secrecy, but for keeping track and having a way to, to tabulate who the top 2 or 3 are without us happy to.
And I think if we have something simple, just check marks, so it's not a, I think if we have a list and we have check marks, then we can quickly see where there is some consensus. And again, all these things will be public, and we can shoot to ideally arrive at 2 from that tabulation, and then entertain motions on one or the other, and whoever receives the motion, the inference will be to vote for that person or the other person by default, right? And if the first one fails, then obviously the other person would be need to entertain a motion to appoint the other person. So if you nominate me to sit in that seat and Charles says yes, but the majority of the board does not vote for me, then the next person would have to be nominated second and then voted on.
So forth and so on.
I think I'm almost there. We might have to have a side conversation on this, because I don't see the difference in that and all the names, and we rank them, and then, coalesce with that, come from there and come up with the number 1 person. Basically, we got the votes, number 1 votes, ranks, right? And then whoever came in second with the most votes becomes the second candidate. I don't see the difference.
I think people might, this is all before we have discussion about it, right?
This is after discussion.
This is after we've heard from folks. This is we haven't addressed whether we have a long discussion afterwards. But
I was thinking of it as doing it just based on whatever they send in and they're speaking, and then that would narrow it down. And then if you make a motion about one of them or for one of them, then there might be discussion.
Sure.
Okay, so we come to the table here with our initial thoughts about someone. And again, so that still can be a ranking, right? Who's my number 1 through my number whatever, right? And then after the speaking, we true up that evaluation, our opinion of that. I like that.
I think we what we do is just in the in the selection sheet, we end up with who informally which people have the most interest, and of those top 2, or again if it's a tie, or there's 3 or 4, that's a possibility. But if at a minimum 2 in there, and we can read out who has gathered the most interest, and then entertain a motion. And it could be that the person who got the most interest on the sheet also is one who gets majority support for the appointment, or it could be something else.
I think that's a good way of whittling it down.
Any questions? Have any for our folks who have to manage this process, any outstanding concerns or not concerns? We don't want to adjourn any concerns, but clarifying questions.
Do you want to just read the notice as we revised it, make sure that
Would
everybody's.
you like to hear the notice?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, please.
I don't know if this is on. This one.
You can talk.
Hopefully, I'll just stand up here so you can hear.
Thank you, Ms. Huff.
The vacancy oh, here we go, thank you. The vacancy resulting from the resignation of Mr. Vernon Payne as a member of the Clark County Board of Education will be filled by the board pursuant to, and then I name law, which provides the remaining members of the board shall appoint qualified resident of the education district wherein the vacancy occurred to serve for the remainder of the unexpired term and until its successor is elected and qualified. Any qualified resident residing in District 2, Clark County Board of Education, and desiring to serve on the Clark County Board of Education for the remainder of the term through December 31st, 2020, is invited to submit a letter of interest, biographical sketch, and up to 2 letters of support to, and then we give the address and to Jerry Bybee, Board President. Applicants must reside in District 2 and must meet the qualifications required by law. The letter and the accompanying biographical sketch must be signed by the applicant and delivered to the Clark County Board of Education office, give our address, personally or by US mail by 4:30 PM, Thursday, February 14th, 2019.
Thank you.
One statement, you mentioning remaining of the term. Should we insert somewhere there 2 years? So
We have the December 31st, 2020 on there.
well, I'm being explicit, okay?
I think that, it says.
Well, I read that
Through December 31st, 2020.
Okay.
That's great.
Okay, can I have an addition, because we did talk about it, and I think we got support for this, but, something like citizens who would like to comment on the process or particular candidates.
We talked about that going out in the press release. That was accompanying all this stuff.
Press release, so what is this?
This is the legal notice.
This is the legal, okay. My bad. I mean, is there, so you can't put that in the legal notice?
We could put whatever we want in legal notice, and I think what we're hearing is that there's lots of accompanying information to give context to this that will go out in a press release, will be out on the district website, will be part of the articles that our reporters are writing, and I think it'll get well out there, including that we're going to have a forum for comment on our website.
Did we want to include in the notice that they would be expected to speak?
I think we arrived at the completed packets on the 14th. We'll respond to those people and outline for them that they would be given the opportunity to speak at the board meeting, and the 3 questions that we discussed on why they want to sit on the board, the priorities for the Board of Education, and the skill sets that they are bringing to the table.
With regard to the notice, one small possible change. With the letters of support, should those be signed? Not by the applicant, but by the person writing the letters.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
You want to
Go
specify
ahead and say it.
specify signed letters of support as opposed to unsigned ones. Okay, thank you.
So, I mean, for those who are unschooled in legal stuff, so there's going to be a difference between this and the press release. And so what would be on our website? Would we have press release, legal notice, or this only goes in the paper and then the press release goes on the website? Is that?
So the legal notice is what's being published in the paper as our legal obligation to select.
So that would only be the Athens Banner Herald, because that's our organ for public notices. Is that correct?
It will not. We've also talked about putting in the flagpole.
Okay.
And we've
On
all,
our website, and we want to send to radio stations.
that's right.
Okay, that's what confuses me, because it kind of blurs the distinction between the press release. I mean, I just want to make sure that citizens know that we are interested in their comments about either the process or individual folks who have come forward and said they're interested in running. So I just don't want to have that as an afterthought, because we spent 2 hours talking about how we wanted input. And so.
And I don't hear from the folks in the South that it's going to be an afterthought. I hear that it's going to be the main part of the accompanying information that goes with this notice. So the legal obligation to print this notice will be in the paper as it has been read to us. But in the articles written and in the press release and the information given on all the outlets that we discussed, it will include the information that we talked about, so that there is a place for public comment. That these comments are going to be collected on the website.
So I guess what's going to happen is that this will probably go in the paper, because it sounds more like a legal notice, and then the press release. I would just like for us to be able to preview that before that goes out, and I think that's what will go out to the radio stations and advertisements or something. It seems like to me, and really be emphasized on our website.
I I think they're hearing loud and clear what we want in that website. You're saying you want the whole board to sign off on the press release before it goes out?
I just want to make sure that
Can we make sure that, the option for public comment on our website be included in the press release that goes out with the accompanying notice and the information?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic.
Jerry,
Yes,
for the media, I just wanna make sure, I'm not sure if it's already listed, but I would like to see 97.7 FM and also the Zebra magazine.
I was thinking about Zebra, but do you know when their publications are on, like, will it come before this is, because I think it's quarterly, or is it?
He doesn't have a schedule for that. We kind of run this right before, he's not on a schedule per se. He has issues that he does, so he'll definitely restore it.
I can actually address that. We'll miss the publication date, the deadline is February 1st for the February 28th publication of Zebra, but we can get it on the radio station.
Thank you.
and we can make sure that the publisher of the Zebra knows,
Absolutely.
receives the press release and all that. Okay, great, thank you.
So we can get one quickly, yay.
Immediate family member means a spouse, child, sibling, or parent, or the spouse of a child, sibling, or parent. I'll email that to y'all too.
But I mean, that's.
The
what
question was the interpretation of that last section, what was included in that spouse?
That is an in-law, spouse is an in-law.
Okay.
No in-laws beyond those.
Okay, so my son's spouse will be ineligible.
Yes.
Okay.
Just making sure.
Your child and the spouse of your child is not eligible.
But John, what you were asking was, well, I guess it goes both. Yeah.
So, this has been fantastic, and I think we have a process. I think we need to entertain a motion to adopt the process as discussed, and agreed upon.
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. Knopf.
Second.
I'd like to open up for discussion.
Hopefully not.
All in favor? Any opposed? Any in favor? All right, fantastic, unanimous. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Mr. President, before we adjourn, let me say this very quickly. I spoke to Mr. Payne's middle son and also Mr. Payne on last Saturday. And Mr. Payne was quite coherent, and he wanted me to say to the board, first of all, he asked, have y'all replaced me? No, not yet, but we getting there. But anyway, he wanted me to say hi to all of you all for him. And he said that we need to keep moving forward, okay?
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you, Ms. Wood.
Motion to adjourn?
Thank you, Ms. Davis.
Okay.
Is there a second? Dr. Maddox, thank you. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Please adjourn.